And so that first ICMA Green book became a little dated. And we were all talking about the fact that, well, now the incident command system had been widely accepted across the United States. That really needed to be included in a discussion, because on the other side, the emergency manager needs to have a robust understanding and appreciation for what fire does, for what police does, for what public works does. And again, without some organized educational opportunities, how would they learn that? Until they find themselves standing on a levee watching the hazardous materials float by and trying to figure out why all these other people are there. So 3 or 4 of us from American Society for Public Administration, who were the leaders of the section on emergency and crisis management, got in touch with ICMA and said, we think it's time to redo the book. We think we need an edition too. And then it was about 10 years old. It was around 1998. So they have a process they have to go through to change their courses or amend their courses, and that took a while. And they finally got agreement that they were willing to do it, and they had the funding to pay for it, and 9/11 happened. So then we recognized that the world had really changed. And it was now not enough to simply go back to the original authors and say, please update what you wrote. We now needed a whole new generation of people who'd grown up in emergency management, had worked through the 90s and through Y2K and confronted 9/11 in their own EOCs and lost friends and had a new vision of what emergency management really meant. That it was no longer enough to be prepared for the local flood where everybody could go stay in the high school gym for 3 days and then go home and scrub their house with bleach. It was now a question of how do we organize communities to be resilient to natural hazards, to man-made hazards, and now to intentional attacks. So we began the process of putting together the new ICMA Green Book. And it took a while to collect experts that were acceptable to both the emergency management community and to ICMA, because people had to have a certain level of competence. They had to be recognized experts in the field. They had to agree to write a chapter that ICMA wanted. I go into the detail to explain why it was 2005 and the book was about to go to press and Katrina happened. And so everything stopped, and we went back, and each of us that had written a chapter went back and revisited the chapter and said, did Katrina change this? If so, how? If not, why not? What are the commonalities between pre-Katrina and post-Katrina, pre-9/11 and post-9/11? And what does the emergency manager of the 21st century really need to know? But in some ways, more important, what does the city manager of the 21st century really need to know about emergency management?